The great hall of the Galactic Council was filled with voices. Tall, thin alien diplomats spoke in low tones, their eyes glowing in the dim light. But the moment the name human space was mentioned, the room grew cold and quiet. Everyone knew the law: no species enters human space. It had been the unbroken rule for over 200 years, not because of a treaty, but because of something much darker. Captain Kaler sat in the far corner, his heavy armor making the seat creak. He was from the warrior race of Terran, proud and stubborn, and he did not fear stories told to scare children. But this time, it was not a story, it was personal. His younger brother's trade ship had crossed the human border 6 weeks ago. No signal had returned, no wreckage had been found. It was as if the ship and its crew had simply vanished. The council offered no help. They only repeated the same cold words: "We cannot risk sending a rescue team into their space." They spoke like it was a wall of fire. They spoke like even speaking of crossing was dangerous. Kaler's fists tightened. He would go, law or no law. Blood was blood. And he would not abandon his brother to silence. Later that night, in the shadow of the council towers, Kaler's warship, the Iron Fang, lifted from the dock. Its black hull shimmered against the distant stars as it sped toward the forbidden border. The crew was uneasy. Some whispered about the old legends that humans were not like other species, that they fought wars no one else remembered, that their home systems were filled with ghosts. For days they traveled through quiet space. The closer they came to the border, the darker the stars seemed. It was as if the light itself avoided the region ahead. No trading beacons, no patrol ships, not even drifting debris. Only cold emptiness. On the 7th day, the ship's sensors flickered. "Captain, I think we're being scanned," said First Officer Rin, his voice shaking. Kaler frowned. "By what?" "There's nothing out there," but the scan signature was clear. Something was watching them. Then, without warning, a voice filled the bridge. It spoke in perfect Terran language, deep and calm. "You are approaching restricted space. Turn back immediately." The crew froze. There was no comm channel open, no source on the scanners. It was as if the voice came from the darkness itself. Kaler's jaw tightened. "This is Captain Kaler of the Iron Fang. I seek only my brother's ship. I will enter." For a long moment, there was silence. Then the voice returned, colder than before. "You will not return." Ignoring the warning, Kaler gave the order. The Iron Fang crossed the invisible line into human space. Every alarm in the ship began to scream. Shields dropped without command. Engines slowed, though no damage was shown. It was as if an unseen hand was gripping the ship. The crew's voices rose in panic. "Systems are failing. We're being pulled in." Kaler tried to steady them, but even he felt the cold touch of fear. Then the forward viewing screen dimmed out of the darkness ahead. Something vast began to take shape. At first, it looked like part of the void itself. Then the stars around it shifted, revealing the outline of a massive warship. Its hull was black as deep space, without markings or lights. It moved without sound, without heat, yet the weight of its presence pressed on every mind aboard. That's a human dreadnought," whispered Rin. Kaler had heard of them, but never seen one. This was not a warship meant to intimidate. It was a predator built for the kill. No weapons were visible, but the crew could feel them, hidden and ready. The dreadnought didn't attack. Instead, it slid silently to the side, blocking their path back to safety. The message was clear. There was no leaving. The ship's lights dimmed further, one by one. The stars behind the dreadnought vanished, not from movement, but as if someone was turning off the sky. The bridge air felt heavy. Every heartbeat was loud in the silence. Then the voice returned. "You should not be here," it said. "Kaler." swallowed hard for the first time in his life. He began to wonder if the stories were true. The dreadnought moved closer. Its size was impossible. It could have swallowed the Iron Fang whole. No engines roared, no weapons fired, but every instinct screamed danger. And in that moment, Kayla realized the most terrifying thing of all. This ship wasn't here to fight them. It was here to take them somewhere deeper into human space, somewhere no one returned from. The Iron Fang drifted in the shadow of the human dreadnought. No one on Kayla's crew spoke. Even the hum of their own ship's systems seemed quieter now. The massive black vessel ahead moved without a single visible thruster. It was as if space itself carried it forward. The crew felt small, insignificant, like prey in the eyes of a predator that had never lost a hunt. Kaler forced his voice to stay firm. "Hold position," he ordered, but his hand rested on the armrest a little tighter than usual. Rin's eyes flicked between the sensors and the viewing screen. "Captain, it's hurting us," he said. Kaler stared at the tactical map. The dreadnought was not simply blocking them. It moved in slow arcs, guiding them deeper into human space. Every time Kaler tried to turn aside, the dreadnought shifted with silent precision. "Send a hail," Kaler said. Communications lit up, but no human face appeared. Instead, the same calm voice filled the bridge. "Your presence is unauthorized. Proceed to the following coordinates." The coordinates flashed. On their screens, they were deep inside human territory, far beyond the border. Kaler hesitated. If they refused, would the dreadnought fire? He had no doubt it could erase them in a single shot. The Iron Fang obeyed. Slowly, the dreadnought led the way. The surrounding stars seemed dimmer here, almost as if this part of the galaxy had been drained of light. The crew whispered among themselves. One swore he saw movement on the hull of the human ship, something like shadows crawling across the metal. Another claimed to hear faint metallic footsteps in the corridors, but there was nothing there. Hours passed. The dreadnought never spoke again. It simply existed ahead of them like a silent nightmare. Then, without warning, it slowed and shifted to the side. The Iron Fang's navigation systems updated. They were approaching a planet. Kaler narrowed his eyes. It was unlike any world he had seen. From space, it looked alive, great. Green forests and shining oceans under white clouds, but no lights, no cities, no satellites orbited it. It was a world untouched or abandoned. The dreadnought's voice returned. "Land?" Kaler's crew exchanged nervous glances. They didn't want to, but every instinct told them there was no choice. The Iron Fang descended into the atmosphere. The sky was bright blue, the air rich and clean. They landed in the middle of a vast city. Buildings of strange design towered over them. Alien, but not human. Some structures were clearly not built by any species Kaler recognized. The city was silent. No wind carried sound through its streets. No animals moved. The crew disembarked carefully. Weapons in hand, they walked past markets, filled with goods left behind. Clothing still hanging in shops. Plates of food, half-eaten, now covered in dust. Kaler crouched near one plate. The food had not rotted. It was preserved, untouched by time. What happened here? Rin whispered. Kaler scanned the skyline. Every window felt like an eye staring at them as they explored. The feeling grew stronger. One crewman swore he heard a child's laughter from a nearby street. They ran to check. Nothing was there. Another claimed to see a shadow move behind a window on the 10th floor. Again, nothing. Kaler began to understand something. This was not a human world. This was a trophy. A warning. A place left exactly as it was on the day its people vanished. The kind of sight that told intruders you could be next. After hours of searching, they returned to their ship. The dreadnought still hovered high in the sky, watching. Kaler gave the order to lift off. The moment they reached orbit, the dreadnought slid in beside them again. "Follow," the voice commanded. The Iron Fang obeyed once more. They were pulled away from the planet, deeper into the black void. Kaler realized with a cold certainty that they were not being taken to the border. They were being taken somewhere far worse as the stars ahead vanished behind patches of darkness. The crew grew silent. There was a heaviness in the air, like the ship had entered a place where even light feared to travel. Suddenly, a shape loomed ahead. At first, Kaler thought it was another dreadnought, but as they drew closer, he saw it was something far larger. A massive station hidden inside. The corona of a dead star. Its black armor reflected nothing. It was like a hole in reality. The dreadnought slowed and took position beside the station. The voice returned for the last time. "Doc, the Council awaits you." Kaler glanced at his crew. Their faces were pale, eyes wide. The Council. Was there some human ruling body here that judged intruders? Or was it something worse? The Iron Fang's docking clamps locked onto the black station. The dreadnought remained outside. Kaler felt a strange pull in his chest, as if crossing into this place meant he could never go back, and deep inside he knew their true first encounter with humanity was about to begin. The air inside the black station was cold, not the kind of cold from space, but the kind that seeped into bones. Kaler stepped off the docking ramp with his crew close behind. The corridors were vast and empty, made of black metal that seemed to swallow sound. Each footstep echoed, but the echoes never felt right, as if they came a moment too late. There were no guards, no visible machines, no other ships docked here. Only the silent walls. They followed a glowing line on the floor that pulsed slowly, guiding them forward. No one spoke. It felt as though the station was listening. After what felt like hours, the corridor opened into a huge chamber. In the center stood a single long table made of dark glass. Chairs surrounded it, each one shaped for a different alien species. Some Kaler recognized, others he had never seen before, but all of them were empty. A flicker of light appeared at the far end. The same calm human voice that had guided them here filled the room. "Sit," it said. Kaler remained standing, his hand resting on his weapon. "We came for my brother." "Show me where he is," he demanded. The voice ignored his tone. "You will see what happened to him." And to others, the walls around them shifted, becoming giant screens. At first, it was only blackness, then images came into focus. A small alien scout ship crossing into human space. Kaler's eyes narrowed. The footage showed human ships appearing without warning, disabling the intruder in seconds. There was no battle, no escape. The alien crew was taken. Their ship dismantled in silence. The image shifted again. Another scene. Another ship, another capture. Species from across the galaxy, all ending the same way. Not one ship was ever shown leaving. "Where are they?" Kaler demanded. The voice answered without hesitation. "Some remain. Some did not survive the passage." Kaler's fists tightened. What passage? The room grew darker. The walls now showed a single enormous planet. Its surface covered in forests and cities, but the cities were not human. Kaler recognized one from a history archive, the capital of the Terran Empire, an empire that had vanished without trace nearly a century ago. The images shifted, showing streets full of life. Then, in the blink of an eye, everyone was gone. Not dead, not destroyed, just gone. Plates of food remained on tables. Light still shone in the windows. It was like time had stolen the people but left the world untouched. Kaler's crew exchanged fearful glances. "Is that what happened to my brother's ship?" Rin whispered. No answer came. The images faded, replaced by a view of space unlike any Kaler had seen. The stars twisted, bending as though something huge and invisible moved among them. A great shadow passed across the view, blotting out entire constellations. It had no clear shape, only an endless shifting mass of darkness. The voice spoke again. We call it the Hollow. It feeds on minds. It moves through thought. If it touches you, you are lost. Kaler felt his scales tighten. He had heard ancient tales of thought eaters, myths told to frighten hatchlings. But the tone in the human voice was not telling a story. It was stating a fact. If even one ship leaves with the hollow inside, it will spread. It will not stop until the galaxy is empty. The voice continued, and so. No one leaves human space once they cross. Kaler's mind spun. This was not about protecting humans from the galaxy. It was about protecting the galaxy from something inside human territory. The deserted planets were not conquests. They were quarantine zones. The people were gone because they had been taken by the Hollow and the humans. Or the wall that held it back before Kaler could speak. The floor beneath them vibrated. The walls turned black again. Then a new image appeared, a planet not far from where they stood. Kaler could see multiple alien ships in orbit. The voice spoke calmly. They are intruders, like you. But they will not leave. A second later, something emerged from the darkness of space. A single human dreadnought. Kaler recognized it as the one that had escorted them. It moved like a predator through the alien ships, not firing at first, just appearing behind them, cutting off escape routes. Then, in a series of silent, precise bursts, the dreadnought disabled every enemy vessel in less than a minute. Not one shot missed. Not one target survived intact. The screens went dark. The voice spoke softly now. This is what protects your galaxy. This is why you will not leave. Kaler looked at his crew. Some were pale, some were trembling. He knew then that their journey had crossed into something far larger than his search for his brother. The glowing floor line appeared again, leading toward another set of doors. Kaler knew they had no choice but to follow. As the doors opened, they revealed a massive hangar. Rows of ships stood ready, some human, some alien, all armed and modified with human technology. Kaler realized these were not prisoners. They were recruits, and now, he feared, they might be next. The hangar stretched so far that Kaler could not see the end. Rows upon rows of ships stood in perfect silence. Some were massive human warships with black armor that drank the light. Others were alien designs, shapes, and styles from dozens of worlds Kaler recognized. But they all had one thing in common. Every single one had been modified with human technology. Dark plating, hidden weapon ports, engines shielded against scans. It was as if every ship had been remade to become part of one fleet. Kaler's claws scraped the floor as he walked. Why are there alien ships here? He asked. The calm voice returned, because those who understand the truth join us. The tone carried no pride, only fact. Rin stepped closer to Kaler, whispering, They take survivors and make them fight for them. Kaler didn't answer, but his tail flicked with unease. The glowing line on the floor led them toward a set of heavy doors at the far end as they approached. The metal slid open without a sound. Beyond lay a narrow, dimly lit hallway. The walls were covered in black panels, each faintly pulsing with light. Kaler realized these were data storage units, millions of them, stretching into darkness. This is the Black Archives. The voice said, every recorded intrusion into human space is stored here. Kaler's eyes narrowed. Show me my brother, he demanded. The lights around one panel flared brighter, and a section of the wall slid open to reveal a holographic display. At first, static filled the air. Then an image sharpened, a small Varan trade ship. Kaler's brother's vessel, drifting at the edge of human space. Kaler stepped closer, his claws digging into his palms. The recording showed the trade ship being approached by a single human frigate. There was no battle, No escape attempt. A bright flash and the Terran ship was disabled instantly. Boarding pods latched onto the hull, and within minutes, every trace of life aboard was gone. The human frigate then moved away, towing the empty vessel behind it. Where did they take him? Kaler growled. The voice answered without hesitation. He is gone. Kaler's jaw tightened. Gone? You mean dead? There was a pause before the voice replied, no. Consumed before Kaler could demand an explanation, the hologram shifted again. Now it showed an alien fleet over 50 ships entering human space. They moved in formation, weapons armed, confident. Kaler could see their leader giving orders to push deeper. Then, without warning, a shadow moved across the screen. One by one, the fleet's ships went dark, their lights vanishing. Their movement slowing, something black and formless spread through them like spilled ink in water. The crew aboard each vessel collapsed, their bodies limp. Within seconds, every ship was silent. The black shadow withdrew and was gone. Rin's voice trembled. What? What was that? The voice answered. The hollow. Kaler had heard it named before, but now he had seen it. A thing without shape, without body, yet unstoppable. The voice continued. The hollow moves through thought. It enters the mind and erases what you are. Your body may live for a time, but you will never be yourself again. The hologram changed once more, showing worlds, alien homeworlds, colonies, stations, all empty, markets full of goods. But no people. Cities lit but silent, forests untouched, oceans calm. The camera moved through these places like a ghost. There were no bodies, no signs of violence. Just the feeling that life had been erased like chalk from a board. Kaler understood then the deserted planet they had seen earlier was not unique. It was one of many. The hollow had taken its people, and humans had sealed the world away. To stop the spread, the voice spoke again. We did not choose this role. We inherited it. The hollow came for us first, and we learned how to fight it. Kaler's eyes narrowed. And your way of fighting it is to trap anyone who enters your space. Yes, the voice replied, because if even one ship leaves with the hollow inside, the galaxy will fall. The air felt heavier now. Kaler looked at his crew. Some were pale with fear, others with anger. Rin stepped forward. If you know how to fight it, why not tell the galaxy? Why not let others help? Voice was silent for a long moment before answering, because others would fail. They would underestimate it. And we cannot risk failure. Kaler turned back to the endless rows of black data panels. This was not a prison. It was a graveyard of stories, each one an account of someone who had crossed the border, each one ending the same way. The glowing floor line pulsed brighter again. Come, the voice said. There is something more you must see. The crew followed, moving deeper into the archives until they reached a circular chamber. In the center stood a black pedestal, holding a single crystal sphere. Inside the sphere was a swirling shadow. It moved like smoke, but every twist and curl seemed alive. Kaler felt his head grow heavy just looking at it. He blinked, and for a split second, he saw his brothers. Face inside the shadow, staring back at him. He stepped forward without thinking, but Rin grabbed his arm. Captain, don't. The voice spoke again. This is a fragment of the hollow, contained at great cost. If it escapes this sphere, even this station would fall. Kaler could feel his pulse in his throat. For the first time in his life, he wasn't sure if he was brave, or if he was standing at the edge of something he could never fight. Kaler could not tear his eyes away from the swirling shadow inside the crystal sphere. It moved like smoke, but every curl and twist felt alive. He thought he saw faces inside it, some alien, some human, some so strange they had no shape at all. The air in the chamber was heavy. Every breath felt slower, harder. Rin kept his hand tight on Kaler's arm, as if afraid the captain might step closer. Kaler finally forced his gaze away, his heart pounding in his chest. The calm voice echoed again. "This is why no one leaves." Kaler turned toward the sound. A doorway had opened on the far side of the chamber, and a human figure now stood there. It was the first human they had seen since entering this space. He was tall, wearing black armor that reflected nothing. His face was hidden behind a dark visor. He stepped forward with slow, deliberate movements. "I am Commander Hale," the man said, his voice steady but carrying the weight of years. "You came seeking your brother. I will not lie to you. He is gone, taken by the Hollow. There is no way to bring him back." Kaler's claws clenched. He wanted to shout, to demand, to fight, but something in the man's tone told him this was not the place for rage. Instead, Kaler spoke through gritted teeth. "Then why keep us here? Why not let us go home?" Hale's visor tilted slightly. "Because the moment you crossed our border, you became a risk to the galaxy. If the Hollow touched you, even for a moment, you could carry it back to your people." Rin stepped forward, anger flashing in his eyes. "That's madness. We feel fine. We're not infected." The commander's voice was calm, almost cold. "The Hollow hides. You would not know. We have lost entire cities because one man thought he was fine." The human gestured, and the walls around them lit up again. This time, they saw images of human worlds, vast cities, shining towers, oceans filled with ships, skies full of aircraft. Then, in the space of a heartbeat, the streets were empty. The ships drifted unmanned. The towers stood dark. The oceans were still. Not a single sound remained. Hale's voice carried over the images. "We lost 12 homeworlds before we understood how to fight it." Kaler stared at the silent worlds. "How?" he asked quietly. "How do you fight something like that?" Hale's head turned toward him. "By never letting it leave. By burning it out where it hides. By making our space the deepest trap the galaxy has ever seen." The images shifted again, showing fleets of human ships patrolling borders of empty space, massive black stations like this one hidden inside. Stars, vast minefields of dormant weapons ready to activate. "We are not your enemy, Captain Kaler. We are the wall between the Hollow and the rest of existence," Hale said. "But walls must be strong. Walls cannot have cracks. And a ship crossing into our space is a crack." Kaler's chest felt heavy. He understood now. The galaxy feared human space, not because humans wanted war, but because humans could not risk peace. They had turned their home into a fortress, a place no one could enter and leave again. Rin broke the silence. "Then what happens to us? Are we prisoners? Forever?" Hale looked at him for a long moment before replying, "You are not prisoners if you choose to stay. You can live here, under our protection, and fight alongside us. Or you can refuse, and we will place you in a quarantine world where you will remain until you die." The words hit like a blow. Kaler's crew exchanged shocked glances. Some looked furious, others afraid. One young officer whispered, "Fight for humans, against something we can't even see." Kaler stood silent, his mind turning. Hale took a step closer. "You have skills. You have a ship. We can give you technology your people have never dreamed of. In return, you stand with us against the Hollow. You help us keep the border sealed." The offer sounded like a choice, but Kaler could hear the truth beneath. There was no choice, not really. Either he fought, or he lived the rest of his life in a silent cage. He thought of his brother, of the empty cities they had seen, of the way the Hollow moved through the stars like a living shadow, and he thought of his people. If the Hollow reached them, they would vanish without a sound. Maybe this was the only way to make sure that never happened. Kaler finally spoke. "I will fight." Rin turned to him. "Shocked, Captain. You can't." "I can," Kaler cut him off. "I saw what it can do. If we leave, we risk carrying it home. I won't take that risk. Hale gave a single nod. Then you will be outfitted with a new vessel. Your crew will be trained, and when you are ready, you will patrol the border alongside us. He turned to leave, but paused at the doorway. Understand this, Captain. Out there, the galaxy thinks we are monsters. But one day, they will know the truth. They will know why no species enters human space, and why none ever returns. The door closed behind him, leaving Kaler and his crew standing in the dim light of the archives. The swirling shadow inside the crystal sphere shifted again. This time, Kaler thought he saw his own face staring back at him, and deep inside, he knew from this moment on, his life belonged to the wall. The next day, Kaler and his crew were led from the black archives into a long, narrow corridor. The walls hummed softly, as though the entire station was alive. Rin walked close to the captain, his voice low. Are you sure about this, Captain? We don't even know what their training involves. Kaler didn't look at him. We have no choice. If we refuse, they'll lock us on some empty world for the rest of our lives. At the end of the corridor, a wide blast door slid open. Light flooded in, forcing them to squint. When Kaler's eyes adjusted, he stopped in his tracks. Before them stretched a hangar larger than anything he had imagined, and inside it, a fleet, hundreds of warships rested in perfect order. Some were human, black and angular, like blades. Others were alien, but all had been altered, fitted with human armor, new weapons, and engines that hummed with hidden power. A human officer in a gray uniform approached. She was tall, her hair tied back, and her eyes sharp. Captain Kaler, I am Commander Reyes, she said, her voice clipped. And professional, you and your crew will be assigned to a hybrid vessel, human design. Terran modifications optimized for border patrol, she gestured. And two massive hangar doors began to open from the darkness beyond. A ship emerged. Its hull was sleek and black, but Kaler recognized the curve of its wings. A Terran warship frame. It had been rebuilt, reforged into something far deadlier. This, Reyes said, is the Vigil's Fang. She will be your home, your weapon, and your shield. Kaler stepped forward, running a claw along the cool metal of the hull. It was strange. It felt alive under his touch. What have you done to it? He asked. Reyes allowed herself a small smile. We gave it a human mind. The words made Rin stiffen. A mind? You mean an eye? Reyes nodded. An eye built for combat in hollow zones. It can react faster than any crew, calculate attacks before the enemy moves, and, if needed, take control of the ship without your command. Kaler frowned, and if I disagree with its decision, Reyes's expression did not change. Then, I hope you are right. Because if you are wrong, the Hollow will not care about your pride. They were led aboard. Inside, the ship was a strange mix of Terran efficiency and human engineering. Corridors were lined with armored plating, but the controls were smooth and responsive. The crew quarters were simple but reinforced. In the center of the bridge, a single chair faced a wide viewing screen. When Kaler sat in it, a soft, calm voice filled the air. Captain Kaler, I am Vigil. I will protect you. I will obey your orders unless doing so endangers the border. The crew exchanged glances. Kaler leaned back in the chair. Then I hope you and I agree on what danger means. We will. The AI replied, with a tone that was almost human. Training began immediately. They were taught how to identify hollow traces on sensors, how to disable ships without letting a single escape pod leave the area, how to work alongside human fleets, coordinating in silence with encrypted pulses of light rather than open comms. The rules were clear. No ship that crossed the border ever left. If they resisted, they were destroyed. If they surrendered, they were brought to stations like the one Kaler had seen during breaks. Kaler observed the other crew's training in the vast hangar. There were species from across the galaxy, warriors, traders, Mercenaries, all wearing the same black insignia. Some looked resigned, others determined. He realized then that humanity had been recruiting for decades, quietly building an army of outsiders who could fight alongside them, an army the galaxy had no idea existed. On the fourth day, Rhea summoned Kaler to the observation deck. From there, the entire station's outer docks were visible. Kaler's breath caught in his throat. Beyond the station floated the rest of the fleet, not hundreds, thousands. Warships of every size, all cloaked in black, engines cold. Drifting in the void like sleeping predators. This, Reyes said quietly, is the wall. Kaler felt the weight of it, the sheer power, the unity, the purpose, the galaxy. Thought human space was empty. It wasn't. It was filled with teeth, waiting to bite. That night, alone in his quarters, Kaler stared out at the silent fleet. He thought of his brother, of the hollow, of the empty cities, and he wondered if one day the wall would break. If that day came, he knew he would be standing here, on the edge of darkness, and the galaxy would finally see what lived inside the silence. Kaler had been aboard the Vigil's Fang for 3 weeks when the call came. The voice of Commander Hale echoed through the ship's comms, calm but sharp. Border breach detected. Sector 9, multiple vessels. All units, intercept. Kaler didn't need to ask questions. He could feel the shift in his crew. Quiet tension mixed with the cold edge of readiness. This would be their first mission as part of the wall, the viewing. Screen lit up with tactical data. 9 ships, alien make, armed for war. They were moving fast toward a weak point in the border. Kaler's claws tapped the armrest of his command chair. Vigil, plot the fastest intercept, course locked. Time to contact. For minutes, the AI replied. The engines roared softly, and the Vigil's Fang surged into the black as they approached. Kaler saw them on the long-range view. The intruder fleet was spread wide, clearly confident. They had no idea what waited for them. Should we hail them? Rin asked. Kaler shook his head. They'll get one warning. The same we got. A deep pulse reverberated through the comms. It wasn't words. Just a signal, a clear command to turn back. The alien ships ignored it. Instead, they accelerated, weapons charging. Kaler felt a grim satisfaction settle. In his chest, they've chosen, he muttered. The darkness ahead seemed to ripple. And then the wall moved, out of the void. A single human dreadnought appeared. Its black hull swallowed the starlight, its presence crushing even through the screen. Kaler could feel its silent power. It didn't fire immediately. Instead, it glided forward, cutting the intruder. Fleet in two, every alien vessel scrambled to respond. But the dreadnought's movements were like a predator circling prey. Vigil, weapons free, Kaler ordered. The AI's voice was calm, acknowledged. The Vigil's Fang dove toward the nearest enemy ship. Engines flaring blue, a single blast from its new human-forged cannons tore through the target's shields like paper. The intruder's weapons never had a chance to fire, one by one. The rest of Kaler's crew worked their stations with precision. They weren't just fighting for themselves now, they were part of something far greater. Above them, the human dreadnought finally struck. Its main guns fired with no sound, no flash, just sudden, terrible destruction. 3 enemy ships vanished. In seconds, reduced to drifting wreckage, the remaining intruders turned to flee. Kaler knew what came next. No survivors, he said, quietly. The Vigil's Fang and the dreadnought moved as one. They cut down the fleeing ships with cold precision. Not out of cruelty, but necessity. The hollow could hide in anyone, even the desperate, even the innocent-looking. When the last enemy ship broke apart in the darkness, silence returned. Debris floated in the void, glittering faintly in the starlight. Kaler's crew exhaled, the tension slowly draining away, but Kaler didn't relax. He understood now. This was only one battle in a war the galaxy didn't even know was being fought. The human dreadnought turned toward them, sending a short pulse of light. "Good work, Fang." "Return to station," Kaler gave the order. And the ship began its slow turn. Rin leaned over from his console. "Captain, you realize what we just did? If even one of those ships had made it out, the Hollow could have followed them anywhere." Kaler nodded. "That's why the wall holds." Always, as they re-entered the station's massive docks, Kaler saw other patrol ships returning. From different sectors, some bore scorch marks, others trailed thin streams of gas. All of them carried the same black insignia. The crews moved with quiet purpose. No celebrations, no cheers. Victories here were not for pride. They were for survival. Later, Kaler stood alone in the observation deck, looking out at the endless darkness of human space. He thought of how the galaxy still whispered that no one returned from here. How alien governments used the border as a warning to their children. How smugglers and pirates told tales of ships swallowed by shadows. They were all true, but none of them told the real story. The real story was that behind the silence was a fleet the wall, ready to strike before the Hollow could take one more life. The door behind him slid open, and Commander Hale stepped in. "You handled yourself well today, Captain," Kaler didn't turn. "I understand now why no one leaves." Hale stepped beside him, his visor reflecting the starlight. "Good. Hold on to that understanding. Because one day, the wall might break. And when it does, the galaxy will need every one of us." Kaler looked out into the black. Somewhere out there, the Hollow was waiting. And when it came again, he would be here, not just as a Varan warrior, not just as a captain, but as part of the wall.